Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Innovation Showcase. The main purpose of this ongoing series is to inform viewers about exciting innovations and creative individuals across the fields of business, science, technology, education, and the arts. Today via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Wendy MoMa Michel. MoMa is a highly accomplished interdisciplinary artist and NeuroArts specialist based in Boston. She's here today to inform us about her current exhibition entitled Crown by MoMa, which is on display at the Artists for Humanity Gallery until July 16th. During the program, we're finding out why and how the exhibition came about. We'll go on a behind-the-scenes tour, and in the process, we'll come to better understand and appreciate both MoMa's exquisite craftsmanship, but also the personal growth and development she's experienced through the creation and ongoing evolution of Crown during the past 7 years. Let's start by meeting MoMa and then finding out all about Crown by MoMa. Welcome, so delighted you're able to be here.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, Jay. Thank you for having me. Thank you, New TV. I'm really honored.
Well, as you know, had a wonderful time meeting with you at the Artists for Humanity Gallery last week. I'm eager to hear more, both about the exhibition and also the fascinating personal growth and journey you've experienced the past 7 years through your artwork. Let's start by hearing, please, a little bit about your background and artistic interests.
Sure. Once again, thank you so much for having me. So my name is Wendy MoMa Michel. I am a Boston-based interdisciplinary artist and NeuroArts specialist, which is a term that is rolling out these past 3 years, which is exciting. I have spent the last 7 years designing and building a process called Mind Art, which has turned into a creative wellness research lab where we use art to design therapy. But my collection Crown, which is a psychodynamic exploration of the subconscious mind, really is the basis of that process and where that process was birthed. And so originally I am from Port-au-Prince, Haiti. My family and I migrated to the United States in 1995, actually on a visa. And that's really where the journey began. I started working at Artists for Humanity as a teen in South Boston, became a mentor right before I went on what I would call a creative humanitarian exploration. And I lived in Germany, China, and Hong Kong, which really helped shape my studies in spirituality and interdisciplinary arts across various mediums. And so paired with that, and I attended Parsons School of Design to study strategic design and management. And New York is really where my journey to creative wellness really began. And so that's a little bit about me. I came back to Boston after living in New York and LA with a breadth of my experiences, exploring this body of work, really using it as a way to heal from my traumas. And now I'm kind of ready to share with the world what I've been up to.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, before we hear about that journey, just a few words about why and how Crown by MoMa came about at Artists for Humanity.
So, oh my goodness, it's such a full circle moment. Last year I was manifesting. I said, okay, I know that 2023 will make 7 years since Crown was birthed. And, the crown chakra is the 7th chakra. And so I knew that it would be a year where we could really talk about this journey and really share it. And I just kept thinking, I want to have 2 showcases. Never did I think that it would happen at my alma mater, like a space that really birthed and nurtured my creativity. Being mentored by co-founders Rob Gibbs and Jason Talbot, who interviewed me when I was 15. And now 15 years later, when they reached out and said, hey, we want to learn a little bit more about Crown. And I sat there with the curators, Regina Parkinson and Brenda Leong, on a Zoom, and I shared with them, I think I may have sent like maybe 5 or 6 images, because I just learned about this opportunity that they were having for featured artists. And I think I was referred by the executive director. And so when I sat with them and I shared with them about this journey, they had this aha moment once I shared the images in color. And they were like, wait, is this your first time showcasing Crown in color? And I said, yeah, the pieces have historically been showcased in Black and white. And they said, wow, we absolutely love this. We want to support you. And I got the call back that they want to, activate me as one of the first featured artists in the space. And it has been an incredible journey, more than I can imagine. I mean, there's galleries who work with you, and then there's Artists for Humanity who really pours into you beyond work hours.
Fabulous, fabulous. Well, before we hear more about what visitors and viewers can look forward to seeing at the gallery, I think it would be wonderful to step back to get the full evolution and to hear more detail how Crown came about, how and why your journey began 7 years ago, please.
Yes, yes. Every time this image comes up, this is the original Crown drawing. In 2015, I had someone very close to me, a partner of mine, a best friend, a community, a man, someone who just was really loved by the community, pass away. And it was my first time really experiencing the depths of sadness and depression, which what formed into anxiety. And, it really made me question the workings of the divine. And as someone with such a spiritual background, when I lived in Germany, I worked as a missionary and a creative missionary. But, my practice and my training is meditating and praying 7 hours a day before we go into creating or painting, and then going out into the community and moving from that space. So I had a very strong faith. But when this happened, it was something so unexpected, so close to me. I went to an extreme, and I really experienced the other side of spirituality, I would feel. And so a year leading up in 2016 of October, leading up to his 1 year anniversary, I remember feeling, I went to Montreal and I took one little selfie, and I saw a little hint of joy, like very tiny, like, oh, there's something is happening. It was my first time feeling or seeing that in myself in a year. And I had a roommate, Sophia Snow. I said, why don't you go out, take yourself out on a date or something? I'm like, no, I'm not in the mood for that. And then I sat and I meditated, for about 5 minutes. And I heard very vividly and audibly from spirit, create, it will free you. And so I went and I grabbed the sketchbook that I had purchased earlier in that year, and I opened up to this page, and I had the bottom half, actually a piece of the bottom half already drawn, and I guess I never finished it. Then I started working. And after 4 hours of drawing, I looked back and I was shocked because as a classically trained oil painter, this is not the type of work that I typically do. And I knew in that moment that I was channeling. That this was something really pushing through me. And I got obsessed. The next day I went and I finished it. I did another 4 hours. And I remember just looking back like, whoa, I feel like this is going to tell me something. It's, it had grace, curiosity, depth, and sadness, but also a little bit of joy. I felt like it really represented what I was going through.
Mhm. And a couple of months later, you continued the journey and ended up here.
Yes. So the next kind of voice that I heard from spirit was, explore this the way that you explore your life. And so being multidisciplinary, I have always explored different mediums as a means to get to know myself, get to know how I interact with different mediums, and really how else I can communicate through different mediums. And so I said, okay, well, I'm a graphic designer as well as, a painter and illustrator. So I reimagined Crown as a graphic illustration and a vector. And it's interesting because the sharp lines and the bold shapes. It gave it such a striking and contemporary feel. And it was actually more full of life a little bit than the drawing, which I felt captured the essence of Crown in a fresh and dynamic way. And from here, it kind of really began to evolve for me. I started zooming in and out and noticing different moments within the graphic.
Could you just say very briefly a little bit about your process? How did you, in this case with Crown, plan, conceptualize, and then lead to the final product that we're seeing in front of us?
Sure. So it was all through creative exploration. It wasn't until after the first year of showcasing the body of work that I looked back and started to examine what my process was. But while I was in it, I was just following really the light. When you are experiencing difficulties with your mental health, things feel very dark. And then your mind almost gets consumed with one way of thinking as well. And my mind, for the first time in a year, was enwrapped in this body of work. So for 30 days, 60 days, I noticed significant decrease in my depression. My focus had shifted on this body of work. And so this obsession, in a way, just curiosity of like, wait, I haven't felt this in a long time. What else can it do for me? Oh, let me turn this into a graphic. Wait, now I'm zooming in and out and the crops seem to be their own paintings. Let me go to the art store and buy some plywood panels and let me transfer the graphic onto these panels. And I don't think I was comfortable yet, subconsciously and unconsciously, to actually hit a canvas, but I was slowly making my way to the canvas, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And now I had these small plywood panels and I said, okay, this is interesting. And by 60 days, I had a curator reach out to me, and the curator at this showcase said, hey, I would love to feature your art. Do you have anything? I'm like, you know what? I actually have something. I don't know what it is yet. This is before it was titled Crown. I was like, I don't know what it is yet, but I do have some stuff to share. And at that moment, I said, okay, I'm about to share this very vulnerable piece of work. How do I do this? And I leaned into what I was taught by Rob at Artists for Humanity, like everything can be a canvas. And I thought, how can I make this accessible? How can I make it engaging, even though it's touching on a very taboo, tough subject? And so I thought, okay, let's continue to explore it on different mediums. Let's do print collateral, let's do t-shirts, let's do hat. And something from spirit just said, this is Crown. And I felt like, because I was experiencing the lowest seasons of my life, and this was a highlight of my life at that moment, that's what Crown meant to me. It meant just coming out of the darkness and being able to really wear and own my process and my experience and my story, not really being ashamed about it.
And I know at that time, throughout this period in your life, you were thinking about 4 questions that came to you. Briefly share those and the impact they had in your development.
Absolutely. So I thought, how can everyone have access to the work? How can everyone afford the work? How many different ways can the story be told? How may my mental health be discussed in an engaging way? And, this really became the foundation of the work, of making my work accessible. I knew that it was important for me for everyone to just have the work. I knew that because of its healing potential, I said, if this was channeled through me, that means that spirit is living through it. That means that when people engage with it, it will activate something within them. And I witnessed that at this first showcase. People from all over the world came, and out of nowhere, people were starting to talk about their anxiety or their issues with their mental health. And this is way pre-pandemic, this is 2017. And so I noticed that the art served as a mediator for this conversation surrounding mental health. And this is before I understood what art therapy really was. And so the questions that I asked, it was more so, this this body of work is healing. And so it's not about necessarily making a profit. It's about getting the magic out there. And hopefully it can be used as a tool for people to confront themselves, but also if it's a space holder. The body of work is really a space holder.
And I know here we see another avenue through wall projections, encouraging interactive nature of crown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the wall projections, it came from when I was transferring the graphic onto the plywood panels. I remember being in my little apartment in New York, and my roommates coming in like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "No, just transferring." And I remember feeling like, I want to show all parts of what I've been doing. I want to show all parts of this. But I remember when I was placing them, I'm like, it would be so interesting for the people to interact with the body of work. There's this saying, please don't touch the art, but I really wanted people to touch the art. I wanted people to experience the level of curiosity that I was experiencing and almost childlike essence that I was experiencing while working with the pieces. So I took exactly the process in studio and brought it in the gallery. And when I had that display, people they started playing. It felt like a big, like Legos and Lego play or Jenga. Jenga.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a form of therapy, like, tapping into childlike essence and watching people try to solve the puzzle and put it together. That really began what I call my journey of becoming kind of like this social scientist and this researcher.
Yeah, that's again, fascinating outgrowth. As we've seen, the initial work for several years was in black and white. Could you maybe bring us up to speed the next couple of years and how that led to the exquisite color work that we get to see at the exhibition?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. 2 years into creating Crown, I started exploring more immersive and transformative experiences. And naturally, I started adding color to the black and white image. And I remember correlating that I wanted to start adding color when there were seasons in my life. It was a season in my life where I felt completely liberated and free from my own mind. And I thought that was interesting. Like color didn't come into play until I was ready for color to come into play. And I started exploring color theory and wondering, why did I choose yellow? Why did I choose pink? Why did I choose orange? And this is really where the science began. And of course, life and healing is not linear. And so I remember, I think it was summer 2019, after moving from LA, I had a tough time working in the music industry. Crown is, everyone asks, why did it take 7 years, along with the healing journey just not being linear? I was always back and forth between working on the body of work and then so many different, I'm in marketing and I'm a multi-talented and multidisciplinary. So I was pulled away in different avenues of my life. And I'm learning that was because I needed to live in order to go back to the art. Like you have to live in order to create art. And so with each experience, Crown shifted. And I remember, before it got to this fully black and white, there's still some moments of white in there. I remember I had the whole like left to right half all in black and white because I paused from filling into color. And those moments were moments where I was just living life and I was going through more challenges with my subconscious mind, new experiences that I had to unpack. But despite all the challenges, I continued to use that art as a form of therapy and healing. And so finding my way back to color really has been these past, like, especially during the pandemic when, it was a tough time for us all. I think having to be with myself, and I was taking care of my mother who was sick with COVID. She was a frontline nurse. And there was a routine that we had to be in. Like I had to wake up at 7, give her medication, and like be in bed by 10 and cook 3 meals. And it was for like 6 months straight. Caretakers, they don't get enough credit, but it shaped me a lot. And I was able to really dive in and really find the essence of joy within those moments. And I remember just the next 2 years was just slowly filling in the color, filling my life with consistent therapy, filling my life with going back to journaling, going back to yoga consistently, finding things that fill my life up with color, which could be reflective in this body of work.
Mhm.
And so that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing 7 years of the healing journey, a visual representation of it. Um,
Mhm.
and now, I got to return home to Artists for Humanity and showcase that process.
Could you share a little bit about what visitors get to see at the gallery, and maybe just a quick word on how the individual pieces evolved from Crown, which I think has become very clear to us hearing your story these past few minutes?
Absolutely. It's the smaller pieces. Now we're seeing them in 48 by 48, inch canvases and in color. I remember it might have been in 2017 or 2019 when I first moved back home. I said, like, I want to do 1,000 of these. And I remember I was working at a studio and they're like, 1,000? I'm like, 1,000. And I'm like, I know there's gonna have to be some math in there and figuring it out, but I just knew I wanted to do 1,000. So I started the first like 5, and they were 24 by 20, 24 by 48, which is actually the size that's being featured right now. And I made the first 2 or 2 to 5, and there was gorgeous to me, seeing everything in color on that scale. And then life happened, and then I worked on a few more. And then slowly but surely, I got to 22 pieces. And so we were like, okay, this is the 22 that we were going to show. But actually, before I got to 22, I worked with Brenda, one of the curators at Artists for Humanity. And I'm like, Brenda, there's a math, and I have all these different pieces, but I have to figure out how they actually come together to make the final image. And so we sat there until like 10 o'clock one night at AFH, and she called her partner, who was an engineer, started engineering what this puzzle would look like. And so after hours, we realized, okay, she made a 10 by 10 grid. And then within that grid, we figured out that the final puzzle will be 960 square feet by 960 square feet. And that would make 1,000 paintings. And so what you're seeing now is 22 paintings out of the 1,000. And the goal is to have 50 shows, showcased up to 20 or more pieces. And with the goal for all of the pieces to be in someone's home, really to be purchased as a collection. And this dream of mine for all of the collectors of Crown to come back together and for us to put the puzzle together is really a moment I think will be of collective healing. But it also can show diversity, because I imagine someone maybe who purchased a piece in Japan versus someone who purchased a piece in LA may look completely different, but what's connecting them is this body of work. And what will happen in that moment when their pieces are together, right? When they put their piece together, what kind of conversations will happen? What kind of healing will happen in that moment?
Well, in addition to the exquisite artwork we're seeing here and you get to see in the gallery, you've also provided another dimension with incredible, insightful commentary
Mm.
behind the pieces. Just a few words about that feature of the exhibition.
Sure. So the descriptions are, that was actually the most, I think, emotional part of the process. I thought that working on the pieces was excavating. Writing about each piece was excavating, because this is really where you see the mind art process in action. Um, each image, excuse me, is a part of the larger puzzle, but this was a work that was done through channeling and also just subconscious, right? So now we're diving into my subconscious mind. So when I looked at each piece and thought, okay, what are we calling this? All of these memories started to just flood into my mind. It's almost as if just my subconscious mind was completely lifted. And I now had access to memories that probably were once dormant due to my brain protecting me, fight, flight, or freeze, right?
Hmm.
And so it was very emotional. I thought, of course, the featured wall, that the top three is the crown, and looking at logic, mama flow, creativity, logic being, this is a triptych series, but logic being an ode to the left part of our brain. And they say that it's, the logical nature. But if you look at that piece, it actually feels very creative to me. There's more parts than all other three. And so that really talks about this harmonious interplay between creativity and rationality within the human mind, which is also my personal struggle. Like, people are always like, you're so creative. Always questioning where I'm going. Like, why are you trying all these different things? Why don't you go down one path? And I'm like, can I be both? I'm actually very interdisciplinary. And then you have Mama Flow in the middle, which is an ode to flow state, and an ode to my mother, who just has shown so much brilliance and beauty and grace, even though we have gone through so much. And, she left behind her passion for being a seamstress when we left Haiti, and came and became this nurse and is a director of nursing now. And even through it all, she represents so much elegance and grace. And so then we go into creativity, right? Which feels a little bit more like flow on the right side of the brain. And it's when the pieces all come together, especially the crown piece, I'm like, these are the parts of me. This represents my crown. There's my mother representing the lineage of the woman in my family as a Haitian woman, right? And my struggles with being away from my island, from a small child, and trying to get back my native tongue, and trying to, like my mom being my hero, but also knowing that I have to find my own path and accept my own carve into the world. Then, this battle between my being a brand strategist and a painter and a businesswoman. The crown, that featured wall, really is the essence of me.
Wonderful. Well, in the minute or so we have left, let's pick up on that part you just mentioned, the business person in you, and share just a little bit about the merchandise that's both on display in the gallery, but that's available, and another outgrowth of the whole crown development and experience.
Oh, absolutely. So, through all of this, through this process, we've built this program, and Mind Art, which is my company, that I am building with an incredible partners, Abigail. And, we've turned this process into a 3-step process that anyone can really go through. First phase of self-exploration, second phase of creative transformation, and that third phase of sharing the story. And so Crown is really me sharing the mind art that I've created over the past few years. And we've been able to synthesize it so that you don't have to take 7 years to share your work, but you can do it in a much shorter time. So now the past year, I've been like kind of obsessing with turning my crown into prints and patterns and print repeats. And I worked with an incredible textile designer, and we turned my paintings into these beautiful prints. And then now I'm able to see them come alive in fashion. And this is exciting because fashion correlates with my identity and how I express myself. And so it was just only right that now this collection would be seen in this way that I feel the most seen. And the crown art to merch, it's really fascinating. It's taking that art, taking that paint, and turning it into power, and wearing that what the power is. And I just feel I'm very excited about it.
Oh, it's fascinating. It's exquisite, and really have to see it in person to truly appreciate it. Well, MoMa, unfortunately, we've come to the end of the program. It's been fascinating to have you with us. Learned so much more, continued success with your growth and development, with your artwork, with Mind Art, and look forward to following your development in the years to come. Thanks again, and definitely encourage people to make their way to Artists for Humanity by July 16th, and then we'll have contact information to stay in touch with you as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jay, so much. Thank you, New TV. Thank you, everyone.
Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.